much. Our next speaker has been a senator in Brazil, senator, governor, presidential candidate, and also a member of the UNESCO's Institute of Education, Council of the United Nations University, and also a PhD in economics. So please welcome Cristovam Buarque.
Cristovam, you can go ahead now.
Everybody. Okay. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon to each one of you. It's a great pleasure to be here to talk about this subject that I have been involved for many years. But let's start saying that we are in a world of transformations. We have environment problems. We have the unemployment problem, structural unemployment, not just before. We have a terrible, big inequality around the world. We have no weapons in the hand of terrorists. It's a risky world. We have artificial intelligence also. The world is changing. This is why UNESCO asked the 15 persons in the world, I am one of them, to create a commission to think about the future of education. I'm glad to talk about the work we have been doing. We are just on the last weeks, one more month to finish our job. I want to provoke you and to hear you about, in this world changing, in this changing world, how will it be the education? What do we have to teach and learn? And to whom education has to be directed? Let's start for how. In the last 20 years maximum, we have a terrible and wonderful revolution in computers, in telecommunications, visual technologies, data banks, images banks, and so on. And the school is still almost the same. We are doing something now, you in London, I in Brasilia, that the school is not using around the world, not yet. We have to. We have to change the concept of school. Even the words, we need new words to say, for example, teach and learn. We have to create a word to put together, teach and learn. It will be one word, no more two. Teachers. We will finish in the next future the idea of a teacher and the students, and this teacher alone. The teacher will be a kind of writer, preparing a move that we'll call class. We are in the same situation, education, that dramatic arts was at the beginning of the last century, when the dramatic art left theater and went to film. We have theatrical classes. We have to move to cinematographic classes. And perhaps we will need a new word for class. And a new word for class, room. No more a room. It will be a round. So we need to put the new technologies, including artificial intelligence, inside the pedagogical affairs. Education in the future will no more be the affair of a student, a teacher, a classroom, in a classroom. it will be something different. One, learning and teaching also. One, teaching and learning also, using the new technologies, the new tools that are available today in the world. We have to move from the old school to a new kind of school. We did that some centuries ago when we moved from the Greek way to teach to the way we have today. So this is part of the job to think the future of education. What will be this that we still call school in the future? How will be a school? The second is to teach what? To learn what? We have to learn a lot of old disciplines, such history. Each day, history will be more important to understand the position we are in history. Geography will be very important in this global world that we have now. We have to learn what is the geography of the planet. We need a lot of philosophy to understand why we are here. What for are we here? To do what? We are in the end of a kind of civilization. How to build a new civilization? This is an economic, a sociological, but more than any other thing, this is a philosophical problem. We need to speak languages. The world in the future will not afford a person to speak just one language. You have to speak 2, 3 languages before to have an international, universal one language, perhaps one day. We have, each child has to learn a profession in the school. He or she has to leave school with able to exercise a profession, even before to go to higher education. This is very important. The secondary school has to teach a profession. We have to teach each one, this is new things, international solidarity. We have to teach and to learn. We do not have yet the same one word to say teach and learn. We need that. We have to teach and learn solidarity, international solidarity. Not only the solidarity with our neighbor, a poor person or a needed person. No, an international. It's a kind of human species solidarity. Homo sapiens solidarity among all of them, all of us. We have to be in touch and to learn how to respect nature, the other animals. We have to learn the feeling that we are part of the nature. A very special part, yes, but a part of nature. We need the nature to survive. We have to teach and to learn that. This is regarding what? And third, after how. How and where, the same thing. And after what, we have to think to whom. We have to have, this is what at UNESCO we are thinking, we have to have a plan and a strategy to keep any child of the world independent of the country, independent of the income in school, in this new kind of education. No child left behind in the world. No child left behind was an expression used by former Bush president in the United States. We have to use that to the humanity. No child left behind in the world. To do that, what I personally recommend is the idea of a global Marshall Plan for education. You know that after the Second World War, America, United States, promoted a Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe. It worked very well. America sent the money, Europe had the knowledge, and they rebuilt Europe. We need something like that. Most people does not like the name Marshall. Okay, let's find a new word. But we need an international effort for education. We had international effort to economics. We have now an international effort to win COVID, to win vaccines, to win the epidemic. We need an international effort after the epidemic is finished. We need an international effort to promote education everywhere in the world. No child left behind in the world should be a kind of slogan to the next future regarding education. And so we need the help of people such as you. Young people, before university, fresh mind to create a new mind, to reorient the civilizational path. The problem to move from this present industrial civilization with all its problems of climate change, inequality, artificial intelligence, how to cope with that? To move from this kind of civilization based in consumption and destruction of environment, to move for a new harmonium, a new civilization with harmony among people and between people and nature, to move from one to the other. This will not be the work of old politicians. It will be the work of a new mind. A new mind is created in schools, in education. And this is why I'm here, because I think that to speak to people such as you, young people, is the way to help the world to find a new path. Because I see no other way to this new path than to have a new mind. It's wonderful to see the international leaders meeting to discuss specific problems, but they will never be together to discuss the global problem, the change from one civilization to another. They will not be able to do that because they are the leader of each nation. They promote international relations. They do not promote a new civilization. President Obama said that in Copenhagen during the climate change meeting. He said, there is no president of the whole world. I'm president of the United States. I have to think the United States people, the American. And that was what elected Trump president when he said, America first. But he made a mistake. You can say England first, Brazil first, America first, but no one of us will have a future if we do not put together education of the child, of the children of the world. This is why I'm here. But I think that more than speak to you, if I think that you will be the leaders of the next years, I prefer to stay in these 20 minutes I spoke and to hear if you have questions, contradictions, comments, criticism to these ideas. That I will resume. First of all, we need a new civilization with a new path to move from the present global problems. Human problems, no more national problems only. That will be done by education, by the creation of a new mind. And the education, as I said, has to change. Has to change how to do it, what for to do it, and to whom to do it. I hope that in the next months, you will receive our report. Before this report is done, I'm here to hear from you. Please understand how happy I am to speak to people like you, and how hope I can be, because we have people like you hearing from an old person, thinking the future where you will live. And I hope you will build. This is my last words. You will build the world where you will live. This is why the world needs you. Thank you very much. And I'm ready to receive your criticisms, comments, and questions.
Thank you very, very much, Cristovam. We have a few questions for you, and I will be representing all of my peers in asking you them. So the first one is, in a polarized world, how difficult is it for countries to unite and come up with a single plan for education?
May I answer this one? May I answer? Okay, listen, it's very, very difficult to put 200 countries together, but to have some problems that can put them together. I'll talk about one that you feel it in England, in Europe, migration problem. Migration is a problem. Europe cannot open the doors. That will be a very problematic situation. But if you close the doors, it will be a moral situation to see people the other side of the Mediterranean dying. I wrote a book called, let's say in English, in Portuguese, well, I'll say in English, Invisible Mediterraneans Seas. Around each one, there is a Mediterranean Sea. In Brazil, around my house, tourists cannot come here. There is a Mediterranean between me and the tourists of Brazil. But in the world, the migration is a problem. There is no one to solve the migration problem with the ethical principle. I have been proposing inside this Marshall Global Plan for Education, I'm proposing a policy that we used in Brazil. We use it. We pay poor families to put their children in school. If America had a problem like that, for example, Central America, let's pay poor people a very small amount of money, but enough to live, with two conditions. First, the children have to be in schools. Second, the adults should not move from his city because adult people has to carry the children. A global plan like that, pay poor families to keep their children in school, will solve part of the immigration problem. It will not solve the problem of immigration because of wars, such in Syria, but it will solve the problem of migration because of poverty. We will keep the adults out of Europe, receiving money, and we will put the children of these people in school. So we'll have education. We have to find where a problem can be solved because of the cooperation, with the benefits to both sides. Usually we think help poor, we think that in how to help the poor. Today, with the integration of the world, to help the poor will help the rich. It depends on the conditions we put to give the help. So very good question. And they'll say almost impossible perhaps to put 200 different countries inside a same room to discuss the future of the world. Even because the word humanity is no more a word of philosophers. It's a word of everyone, but it's not yet in the policies. The policies and in politics, they are nationals. There is not the poor of the world. There is not the people of the world. People is a national word, is a word to nationals. This is a problem that the person who made the question consider very well it. Anyway, we have to think that there is no other future than one future to any Brazil, in any word. Just to finish, let's say another. Environment problem, climate change. No country will solve this problem. This is a global, planetary, humanistic problem. So it needs a new mind to humanity. This new mind will put the different countries together. We will come to be together because there is no sustainability if you do not carry the problems together. My optimism comes from the pessimism for today. I am optimist regarding the future, although pessimist regarding present times.
Thank you for your answer. We have a few more questions, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
So throughout the pandemic, we saw a sharp increase in technological innovation. How might we use technology in our learning?
The way we learn and we teach, I want to remind you that I'm looking for just one word to say learn and teach, because each student is a teacher and each teacher is a student. We need a word. The future of this teacher-student together will come from technology. The present technology, we already know how to use. We are doing that in this discussion we're having, one in Brazil and the others in London. But the problem is not the remoteness, the distance. The problem is how to do that using film technologies. For example, we are talking, but the new technology allowed us to put images. Anytime I speak, I spoke about 200 countries. I know I don't have, but we already have the ability and the technology to show you the 200 countries during the time I'm talking about them. We are still in the time of words. We have to go to the time of images. And not images, photos, image movements. We have to put that technology inside education. We should no more speak only with words. Anytime we're speaking, we have to send images to the eyes of the people, the persons who are hearing me. This new technology, we already know how to do. Using computers, the images banks, the sound banks, the historical images, the filmmakers' technologies. What we do not know yet, and this will be a problem the next, let's say, 20 years, is how to teach directly to the brain. We do not know yet the brain. When we'll have the map of the brain, perhaps instead of teaching and learning with images and word, we will do that biologically. We will do that with medicines. That would be perhaps a terrible word, chips, to put chips inside the brain. This future we do not know how to cope. But I am afraid, I should say I have hopes. I'll say both words, I have hopes and I'm afraid that in some years from now, that will be possible. Instead to go to a school, you go to a hospital and you learn a new languages there. You will learn there mathematics. This will be the combination of artificial and natural intelligence together, creating artificial intelligence in ourselves. That revolution, I do not know how to cope because it brings a moral problem, a very moral problem. The problem that human being will be no more a human being only. It will be android. It will be a mix of human beings and high techs. This one I do not know how to do, how to cope with this new education. Perhaps we should not use the word education, but the use of the technologies that we have now, it's not difficult to do. To move from the theatrical technologies, pedagogical technology, to movies, pedagogical technology, we already know how to do. We just need to put people to do and to have money to do that. This is why I propose this global Marshall educational program to the world.
Fantastic. Thank you for that answer. Now, we may not be at the point at which we can insert chips into our brains, but I think that something that's quite close to this is an international mindset. What do you think the benefits of an international mindset are in the context of a global education?
You said multinational?
International
Multinational.
mindsets, yes.
International, yes, or multinational. I think this is the future. I am not against the nationalities. I feel myself very, very Brazilian. But the world in the future will move to have two hats, the national hat and the global hat, to be national and to be human in the sense of humanity. This is why I like the idea of international education. In university, for example, many years ago, I proposed that there is no more space for national universities. We should have just one international universities. Everyone in this universal university One of the problems that we have in Brazil is that our higher education is very nationalized. It's starting with the problem that we do not speak English, many people, or French. Brazilian speaks usually one language, Portuguese, because of the bad basic education. We should finish high school speaking Portuguese, sure, and one or two more languages, as much place of the world. Even as the rich people in Brazil who use bilingual schools to their children. So I think that the future will be a global education. We'll have an international curriculum. I hope so. Keep in mind the specificities of nationalities and even local affairs. Each one are very local. I said I feel Brazilian, but I feel also from the northeastern, my region, and from my city. But I think that is no time for national feeling only. National feeling, especially from cultural point of view, and an international feeling from the point of view of economics, from politics, and even from the point of view of professions. We have to internationalize the mind. We need to have a human kind oriented mind. So we need international schools. I think that we need that. But international is not yet a good word, because inter means relations among nationals. So we keep the national. I think that's more than international. It is global mind. But let me repeat, keep the local, cultural values that each one of us have. The way is to internationalize education.
Thank you for that insightful answer. I wanted to ask, from your experience, what has it been like working in government, especially considering the climate we see today in politics?
Especially in what? Climate?
The political climate.
Yeah, and the political climate. Listen, politics is a very difficult sport, let's say this way. Very difficult. Because the rules, we made the rules during the game. So it makes very difficult, especially in the moment where the interests, they are changing. For example, what does it mean to be left or right? It was very easy 30, perhaps 20 years ago. Today is no more. I just finished an article today saying that to consider yourself a left person, a person with left position, we need one, to put the climate, the environment on the table. So you have to propose a new model of economics where environment is proposed, not to be protected, but to be part of the economy. Second, you have to consider that the capital today is knowledge. Is no more machines. Is no more the account in the bank. Capital is to have knowledge in your head. The richest men in the world today, or women in the world today, they bring their money thanks to ideas, such as Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and all others in this technocratic world. And third, this is the worst problem, the more difficult problem of politics today. We make politics looking for electors around us, but the problems, they are global. The problems are planetary, but the electors are national. The problems needs long-term considerations, but the electors, they want to think what will move in their lives the next year. So to be international minded will not elect you, but to be national minded will not bring solutions to the problem. I think that this is the worst problem of democracy today. Democracy is based in short-term decisions, looking to the next election, not to the next generation. Democracy requires short-term solutions and the word long-term solution. And the other is that the electors, they are national, but the problems, they are human. But the humanity does not vote. There is not an international president. There is not an international parliament. So that makes very difficult politics, especially for an intellectual person, because he brings to politics his feelings, his understanding. And at the time to go to ask for a voter to vote in him or her, he has to speak the language of local problems, of instantaneous problems. It's very difficult to be an intellectual in politics these days. It would be easier some years ago, where the problems were local. Now the problems are global, but the parliament represents local persons.
Fantastic.
It's a good question, because it brings the problem of to be a politician today in the world.
And the final question, and you will have to keep it slightly short, unfortunately, because of our time restraints, is what is one piece of advice you would give us today?
I'll give two. First of all, look for the knowledge to be happy, to use for you your existence, to be existentialist, as the French says. And second, do not forget that you are just one of 7.5 billion persons, and your future is closed, it's tied to all of them. So be happy and be solidary.
Thank you so much. This has been really fantastic, and I will let my peers do the closing ceremony. I'm not sure whether they want you to leave or stay yet, but feel free to stay for this. Thank you.
I thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
And good life.